I apologize. I'm looking at that clock. I'd like to call this meeting to the Boothbay Board of Selectmen to order. First on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So first on the agenda tonight is a public hearing. For Robert and Robin Zwicker, map R7, lot 100-6, located at 67 Firth Drive, Boothbay, Maine, to construct a pier system consisting of a 4 foot by 60 foot PT wood platform and stair system, 5 foot wide, 95 feet long pier, 3 foot wide, 50 foot long aluminum ramp, and a 10 foot by 20 foot PT wood float located on the Damascotta River. Dan?
Yep, we had, and in your packet you have a letter from Pete, and I think Doug went out to the meeting as well. You can read in there, Pete didn't see any navigational issues.
Yeah, everything's okay.
Yeah, in the letter it states a little concern about the neighbor, but seemed to be worked out during the public hearing, so I think everybody's...
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I'm the neighbor.
Okay.
Who's been kind of raising a fuss about this, mainly because I'm so concerned about access.
Okay.
I'm in a little cove, I don't know if any of you are familiar with that area, but there's a small little cove that I'm at the head of. And in order to get out of that cove into the river, I have to go right by this proposed dock. And so I wanted to make sure there would be enough room for me to squeeze by there, because there are rocks on one side. And there was nothing in the application that was really specific about exactly where the pier and float would be. Now, I went to the meeting the other day, and I was pretty much happy with where it was pointed out to me that it would be. My only remaining concern is that there doesn't seem to be anything in the application that is that specific. And I know how things sometimes change when the construction starts. And I just want to be assured that the pier and float are going to end up where it was pointed out they were going to end up at the hearing, or at the site visit the other day. That's really my only concern.
Well, it's a fair concern.
And it has yet to go before the planning board, haven't gotten back. I think it's the DEP portion and maybe even the Army Corps. So, I mean, that's really the meeting you may want to attend, because you'll see those specific portions of the application that you may not have. I don't know if you got to see those.
Well, I came down and viewed the package that was submitted by, I believe it's Mr. LeBlanc.
Joe LeBlanc.
Joe LeBlanc, right.
And he was at the site visit the other day. And as I said, I was very happy with where he explained things were going to be. But when at least my review of the package as it was submitted, it wasn't that clear. Specifically, how far the distance was between the float and the nearest shoreline. That's where I have to go through. Now, it looks to me like it's about, based on what he said the other day, that it's going to be 50 to 75 feet, which is more than adequate. But it wouldn't take much movement of that pier, because it's so long, for it to suddenly be into what amounts to a channel. And I'd really be squeezing between rocks and the pier, and that's why I'd like to make sure that it ends up where it was pointed out that it was going to be, and we looked at it on Monday.
We never had any trouble with anybody, they go and they explain where it's going to be, and it's usually goes right.
And I don't anticipate that, but I also know that when, things like this happen, I have no other access. I mean, that's it for me. We don't have an association or anything like
I
that.
believe the planning board, like you said, would be the one, and as luck would have it, you have the chairman of the planning board sitting behind you.
And to be clear, I mean, you can't deviate from these specifications that they've applied for, unless they reapply through the DEP and through the Army Corps.
Right, and I understand that. It's just that the specifications, as I read it, and maybe I missed something, it tells you how far that float will be from another neighbor's float, it's about 250 feet, and that's a long way, how far it'll be from the float on the other side. But it doesn't, I don't see any place where it actually talks about how far it will be from the closest shoreline to the south of the pier, and that's what I'm concerned about. Because
And I understand your concern, I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination, I don't deal with these things on a day-to-day basis, so I'm kind of sharing your concern, I guess. You'd like to see something in writing or whatever that says that can't happen. Would that be, and I'm kind of asking the
Well,
planning board again.
normally, what you get is what you have from our harbor master. That's why we have
Whatever
the,
that-
he goes out and he does the
Yeah, right.
navigational
Yeah.
assessment.
When it comes to what we look at here, we only look at two sets of criteria, none of which is the actual building of
Right.
the structure that the planning board deals with.
Okay, so no matter what,
Yeah.
where,
The plan that the planning board will review will show, exactly where the pier is gonna go based on setback from the
Right.
property lines.
Right.
So, and exactly how far from the shore it will stick out. So if he deviates from that, then.
It's like any other permit, then you'd have code enforcement involved.
he'd
and-
be in violation and things would have to move,
Okay.
basically.
Well, you'd have more than code enforcement. You'd have the DEP involved.
So I guess what you're saying is the place to express my concern.
Yeah, no,
the
this is
planning
good,
board.
this is a good place to start, but yes, that's where, that's the action for Warbs and Weirs. That's where they check exactly those dimensions.
And I'll be notified about that before that.
Correct.
Takes place, right?
Yeah, it's.
Next,
Is that next?
it's the 17th,
The 17th, okay.
and you're in a butter, a direct abutter?
Yes.
Okay.
So you should get notification of that.
Correct.
Okay.
If not, it's the 17th. I mean, sometimes mail snafus do happen, but it's the 17th at 6:30.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? So moved. Next on the agenda is the Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens, Inc., William Kalina, map R4, lot 109, located at 132 Botanical Garden Drive, renewal of a liquor license, class 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a renewal of a special amusement permits, class C and D. Dan?
Again, this is a typical renewal.
Renewal.
Yep.
And no issues, we haven't had any issues.
We have no issues. Everything is up to date.
Motion to approve?
Second it.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion?
With any conditions that may have been on the past ones as well.
I'll check if there were.
Okay. All right, motion been made and seconded. All those in favor? So moved. Our first public comment?
I got a question.
Sure.
On the first public hearing, what did you grant Warren Zwicker?
What we granted was our portion of their permit.
Portion?
Yes, there are a number of different agencies that have to give their approval for awards, and we're just one of many. They have to see the planning board, they have to see us, DEP, Army Corps, the Indian tribes.
Any more public comment? Okay. I guess we'll move on to approved meetings of May 27th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions, corrections? All those in favor? Motion passes. Reports, Dan.
Okay, in code enforcement, we have 2 more Warbs and Weirs coming up. Not for this planning board, but for the following. Or no, maybe, I think it is this planning board. You guys will have two more. 1 use application, we have 2 septic permits, 1 plumbing, 1 building, and 1 septic complaint. Mike O'Donnell is preparing to get our commitment done. So I believe our next meeting will come in and we should have kind of a soft number for what the mill rate will be for 16,
Okay.
fiscal year 16. Business side, the tax liens are being filed on Monday. We have 139 of them. The sum total is roughly $204,000, which is right about where it normally is.
Okay.
But they'll go out Monday. And we started our pre-audit yesterday, which will have a follow-up in about 2 weeks. We just started, we had some interviews, and then they started to tell us what we needed to call out for them to go through. Public Works has almost completed fixing the playground deficiencies that were recognized by the MMA risk analysis. I think they may have another day there. So, and once they do that, I'll have a follow-up report that will go to MMA and you know, say maybe you want to come down and take another look at us. Other than that, we're good, firing on all cylinders.
All right. Old business?
Can we back up just for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Financials, can we get like a monthly, we used to get a monthly, or was it quarterly report on the financials, just to see where the budget, where we are money-wise
Where we
versus
are in
budget?
terms of what the final,
Right. Was it
Yep.
monthly or quarterly? I think it was monthly that we were getting.
Monthly, one time it was.
Yeah.
Sure.
It'd just be nice to have on a monthly basis.
yeah, absolutely. And in that format, do you want the entire, all line items, or do you
Here.
do you want to get
I
the,
think we got line items and then where we were, what was budgeted, where we were year to date, and what's left, I think is how it, I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward.
yeah, absolutely.
It's usually like 2 or 3 pages, I think, if I
Yep.
remember right.
Yep, I'll make sure you have that next meeting.
Okay. Back, or on to old business. Joint Economic Committee Memorandum and Agreement Committee and appointments.
So, I know we had discussed there were a couple of potential applicants, and I got in touch with both of them, and they are interested. That's Don Gilbert and Steve Rennie
Okay.
are both interested in being on the committee. And they would, again, with the group that you had before, Steve Malcolm, Andy Hamblett, Scott Riddle, Win Mitchell, those are our 7 applicants. We had to take Anya out of the mix because she's an Edgecombe resident.
We need to pick 3.
4.
Do we set up like an interview process?
I think we kind of have to with that many.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's
I think
right
we
for us to just willy-nilly grab who we want. I
A
mean, I
couple of
think,
nights and do them in half-hour intervals. I can't see it taking more than a half hour.
I can't
Yeah.
either. Can you work on getting those interviews set up, Dan?
I absolutely can. Is there any night that would be better for you guys?
As long as it's after 6 o'clock, when about the time I'm getting out of work, I
Now,
don't care.
do you want to do them half hour, half hour, half hour, half hour?
How many
Straight?
is-
Or do you want to
yeah,
break
but
it
there's
into 2
8
nights?
total?
There's 7 total.
Well, we don't go one night, it's a
nights.
little much.
Yeah,
probably
I think 2
nights.
nights and
2 nights?
kind of work around their schedules the best you can too.
If you could do them back-to-back nights would be handy, I think, like a Tuesday, Wednesday.
ASAP? I know the harbor has been anxious.
Yes.
I get email traffic a lot from
They've already got theirs.
wondering
They've got
how
their
we're
phone, They're
doing.
ready to go, so.
So I would,
ASAP.
yeah, I would say as soon
ASAP?
as possible.
Maybe next Tuesday, Wednesday night if you can do it.
Tuesday, Wednesday, not Wednesday. That's planning board meeting, unless we could do it, yeah, because that'll tie you guys up.
Monday, Tuesday?
Monday, Tuesday? Would that work? I say that tentatively, I have to check the calendar, but would that,
I'd have a third night in there just in case.
okay?
Yeah, You got 7 people scheduled.
Thursday?
that You're gonna be going around. Yeah, that's fine.
Thursday works for everybody?
It's fine with me. The
Okay,
meetings Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I might as well start next week the same
Well,
thing.
I mean, I won't be here for a couple of weeks after Thursday anyway, that's when I have my surgery.
so if we could do it before,
It's Thursday, so if it's before, I could be here.
okay, I'll try to get that done, ASAP.
Even if we had to do Wednesday evening too, before the planning board, at like 5:30 and 6 or something like
Yeah,
that.
well, I was thinking if we could get 3, 2, and 2, or 3, 3, and 1.
Right, because that way Wednesday might only be a half an hour early on.
Yeah, we could do, if we started at 4:30 on Wednesday, we could get 3 in.
We may not have to with Monday and Tuesday though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if that,
Yeah, right.
I'll try to figure it out and get you guys notice as soon as possible.
Okay? Next on old business is the personnel policy. I see we have in our packet some highlighted,
There's just two spots that should be highlighted, they were what you recognized last time as things that you'd like to see in there. Again, it's just a suggestion, if you have anything more or anything you'd like to change. And I haven't sent it to legal yet, because again, you guys have to like it before we spend those dollars.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but, I mean, for them two little changes, this thing's already been illegal. Why would we want to pay them to go over it again?
Are those the only changes that we've made?
I believe so.
In this edition.
Right.
I,
I mean, the time clock, I mean, to me, that's kind of a must. And the other one was the change of the retirement,
Mhm.
which is pretty
I-
self-explanatory.
I personally would feel more comfortable just because it has to do with financials, just if I could just send that to be assured that we're legal there. The time clock, I think we're fine.
right, when you're dealing with people's retirement,
Yep.
Well, I would recommend then that Dan send notice to the employees with their paychecks, like it says. Make sure you follow how it says.
Yep.
And send notice to put the employees on notice that
there's gonna be changes
there's
to the
going to be
personnel.
changes within 30 days. Give them the 30-day notice, I guess it is.
Yep, I'll do
You'd
that.
have to enclose the notice with all employees' paychecks. We just need it.
I do have to say, you need to explain that wording to me.
The which?
Retirement.
Okay.
Because that doesn't say it's stepped up to
Right.
5.
I like the way it was spelled out in in the one,
The way it says right now, we require a 1% to be capped out at 5, which means they have the option of going 1% and staying there. And that wasn't what we were looking at.
I thought the town requires an annual 1% contribution.
Yeah, an annual 1% would mean 1% a year, not 1%, then 2%, then 3%.
So I could put in step.
you really need to spell it out only because it doesn't say how much the town puts in either.
It never has since '06. We went back and did research to see when they took it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's dangerous for the employee. Really.
Yeah.
Because we're not really committed to do,
Right. I
It's-
think that it ought to spell out what the town puts in.
if
Just
we're,
like
if we're
if
gonna
you look
send
at
this to
the-
legal,
Yep.
we oughta,
Spell it out
I
pretty
think you
clear.
take the wording that was in.
It's just
the
that it
proposed
wasn't
policy.
in-
Right. Take the wording that was in the proposed policy from that human resource person. It's fairly long, but at least that spells it right out.
Spells it
It
out.
spelled it out well.
It's, when you read it, you understand it.
Right, and if you choose not to put
it.
into that retirement plan, it shows you what happens. So that whole paragraph ought to be in there, I think.
I would agree.
It was simple enough, so I.
As it was worded
Yes,
on that proposal.
yes.
So,
Sounds pretty-
you actually started off saying you were gonna make a motion. Are we gonna retract that and say we should table this? This has been-
As
He
amended?
can make that, yeah, he can
I
make
can-
that
I can
change
insert
and then
Then at least state it as amended.
didn't technically make a motion.
I'm pretty sure you started off.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion, we'll put the employees on notice that we're gonna change the personnel policy in 30 days with the amendment that we just pointed out.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? So moved. And finally, on old business, we have the Ulmer Fund application.
Yeah.
I like it.
I do too. Gives some criteria.
The only thing that I pointed out to Dan before the meeting is in this little fine print up here.
Yep.
There ought to just be something that if you're going to ask for monthly income, it ought to say in that information provided here will stay confidential.
Just for their own kind of peace of
All
mind.
information to be held confidential.
Right. Other than the name. You know what I mean? All income.
All financial information
Right,
to be held.
right. That way, I mean, it will set them at ease a little bit.
We need some spell check too on it. First line after Boothbay. I think that's supposed to be in.
by completing the.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So slight editing, but other than that, we're all pretty satisfied with it?
Yeah.
I think it captures what we were asking.
Absolutely.
It's better than what we had before, which was
Nothing.
pretty much nothing.
Do we need a motion for this, or is this just gonna be,
I'll make a motion we adopt it. The couple of changes that we just discussed.
Second.
okay, motion's been made and seconded to adopt the changes made to the home farm application? Any more discussion?
And put it in use immediately.
Can you use immediately? Okay. All those in favor? So moved.
Now, should we lift the moratorium
moratorium?
we put on it
Oh, yeah.
and ask the one application that we have to resubmit using the new?
Oh, right, because it was a moratorium when that was
Right.
received.
Right. So yes. The moratorium has to supersede, so this,
Did you do that as a form of a motion, Chuck? When we put the moratorium on, do you remember?
I think I did.
So I'll make the motion, we remove the moratorium. And ask that the one application that we have received to resubmit using the new form.
Second.
motion been made and seconded, all those, any discussion? All those in favor? So moved. New business, Water District Joint Grant Proposal. Hi, how are you? Dan?
So, yeah, actually, I
I'm sure
talked
you-
to Sue. I thought she may be a better voice here than I am. We just talked about it briefly, and you know, she, John, and I, and it made a lot of sense from my perspective. And of course, that's coming from the old job. So.
Code side of Dan?
Yep. And I'll allow Sue to begin the discussion if you don't mind, and I'll jump in where I think it's necessary.
I'd like to start by saying John Ziegler would be here tonight if he weren't at Presque Isle. What he's doing there, I'm not sure, but I'm here instead. What we're basically asking is for you to join us with us in a grant application to address the runoff and erosion sites associated with the town roads in both watersheds. Last year, we did a survey and we identified about 50 runoff sites. I can talk about why that's significant if people want me to. This year, we're trying to address the most important ones. We have offered 15 grants to local homeowners who had problem sites so far, and we're going to fix one of our own sites this summer. Now, and you have a package, I've sort of laid this all out, I've provided you with all the sites we're looking at, and we're proposing to go for a DEP grant for. Right now, what we would like to do is when the RFP comes out for the 319 Clean Water Act funds, is apply for it. The way the grant works is 40-60 split. Do 40% of any in-kind match, and they provide 60% of the funds. So it's a pretty good deal because most of the projects, if you look at what we have, could be done by public works crews. They're pretty simple.
And to speak to that point, I gave the plans to Mike, and I asked him to look over them and see, you know, if what he might not be comfortable with in regards, because it's very specific. You have to meet certain criteria for them to actually give you that payout. And he thought it was all attainable by the public works crew. I mean, he was very confident. There wasn't anything on there that he couldn't. His only issue was that some of it was on private landowners. Correct, that it wasn't all within
And to
our right of way.
explain why those private properties are there, they're all on Knickerbocker, and they're all people who are in the tail end of a culvert into the town road. So they've been experiencing erosion for at least 10 years. I know some people have come here and complained, but at this point, we're just looking to address the problem of those sites that have been caused by culverts. Essentially, you're familiar with Back River Road, you turn the curve to see Knickerbocker, there's that really steep slope. And where there's been some development, the water has really washed out downstream properties. And then further along, even when there was no development, there's just so much flow that comes through. Be happy to go out with you. We haven't been out to all the sites together.
No.
And we have to do that point. At this point, we haven't even applied. I mean, so there has to be an understanding, we aren't guaranteed of getting this money, but we really can't go forward without the town because basically, so many of the significant sites are town sites. The water district, I think the breakdown there's like 11 town sites and 9 water district sites, a few DOT sites.
My only concern are two things. as long as it doesn't cost us money, which by the sounds it won't, and will our public works, on top of everything else they have to do in the summertime, in the paving project and stuff, would they have time to do that?
And that's one of the things I talked to Mike again about, and he felt, again, confident. There may be some things that, maybe we have to shift in terms of time, but he didn't seem as though this was going to put too much of a cramp on his time. It looks like, if the stars align, we could be talking about a potential Clifford Park project around the same time frame, I believe.
I think we have a 2-year window, and I don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure we have a 2-year window. So we would, if we got the grant, it wouldn't be money till next year. So I would think we would probably start on Adams Pond, which is water district mostly. There's a couple of DOT sites, we're meeting with them this week, and there's a few private sites, which, we still have to line up all the private property owners, which we haven't even begun to talk to anyone, because we have to talk to the town first. Obviously.
Right, and we, as it stands now, we obviously no one's voted in the Clifford Park project, so we wouldn't even be breaking ground until next year.
So how would that work if they replace a culvert on the Adams Pond Road, for instance? I don't even think that's on, but to say they do. So that time was considered the 40%, and they'll pay for materials?
They will pay for 60% of the project. So if the 40%, part of that might be materials, part of it might be labor, part of it might be, someone in your office doing paperwork related to it. Probably the water district will do all the oversight and all the administrative stuff.
So we would just send you, the water district, a bill breaking down, and they would turn around and, okay.
Yeah, that's how it should work. The water district and the town and Knickerbocker Lake Association applied for the same grant in 2004. The town didn't accept any of the money that time.
Was that
so
75,000?
It was about $70,000. The town decided, because I think we didn't do this process right, we didn't get the town in first and say, do you want to? It was suddenly, oh, here's the money, and it didn't happen. And a lot of the sites are the very same ones that were back in 2004, particularly Knickerbocker and Adams, both.
If there's grant money to do it, it sounds like a win-win.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We
right.
can do it. If we get the grant, and it's,
If we can do most of the work, it should be net zero. If not, we may even put some money back for fixing roads and whatnot.
Now, there's no secret here, I'm a water district employee, I see no financial gain from this grant, so I'm not gonna abstain from this vote, as long as everybody's comfortable that I can be non-biased. But if you're not comfortable, I'll sit out.
I don't think that there's, by you voting in the affirmative, you're not putting the town in a bad position.
That's what I'm saying, so that's why, I feel comfortable.
He's not putting the town in a bad position or the water district in a good position. Your hands are clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we file jointly with the water district on the grant.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? So moved. Next on new business, we have the fiscal year 2016 appointments.
And really, this was just to kind of begin the discussion about next month. You're going to have to start doing those, and I just wanted to get it on your radar. So that and we're still actually trying to get some folks to come out for a couple of the open positions that we have.
In the next month, will you contact them to make sure whoever's on?
We have letters going out. I believe they're all done right now, and that they'll all be going out within the week. But we are still fighting to get a few more. I know Board of Board of Assessment Review is one that
Always seems to be a tough one.
yeah, we're really struggling with finding folks for that.
That
The
one
planning
rarely
board, the planning
moves.
board, we've had an ad in the paper for 2 or 3 weeks, and we've had it on the town site for a while. So we're still actively trying to get some folks out. We're not rendered handicapped, but we don't want to get to that point.
No, absolutely not.
So anyone,
Right.
please feel free to throw your hat in the ring.
Bill, do you live in Boothbay or Boothbay Harbor?
Live in the harbor.
Oh, yeah.
So, and what I have the list here, it came in later today. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean this up, and I'm gonna give you, via email, I'll send this to you so that you know who's up, who's interested. But again, I just wanted to get it on your radar, get you thinking about it again, and if you see somebody in the streets that, has a little bit of time, send them into the office, and maybe we can fool them.
Okay.
Kinda glad you worded it that way.
So, no, that's all I had that for.
All right, we're back to our latter part of the public discussion, public comment?
I had a question about the owner application.
Yes.
You said that it looks like it now has on it what you want on it. What exactly did it change on it?
Well, technically, I don't think there was actually an application.
You want,
Criteria.
Yeah, so now we have a criteria.
What is the actual?
it just asks for essay and ask questions.
It was
you know,
kind of
ask
a
why-
boilerplate
How it will
application
benefit their
for-
education, their high school education and stuff, which we didn't have before.
How do you judge it? Is it just personal preference for each one of the selectmen, or is there?
Well, there's a request in there to find out what the income status is for the family, what the student has done in the past for work, to show, in other words, are they willing to work and put in their own money? And then there's a request for a minimum 200-word essay to explain how this is going to help further their scholastic career.
Okay.
Does that help you?
Yeah, and how, well, yes, it does, thank you. And on the Water District Joint Grant Proposal, is there a figure on the grant amount? Do you request an amount in the grant, or is there?
They'll figure that out. The water district will.
Okay. You just gave the okay to,
To put in an application,
Yep.
Thank you.
certainly. Anybody else?
So, I've heard that there's been some discussion at a couple past selectmen's meetings about concerns. There may be some concerns regarding the telecom tower ordinance the planning board has been working on.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to come talk to you guys face to face, find out what your concerns are, see if we can alleviate your concerns. If there are any issues, get them out of the way before we invest a lot more effort and start going down the public hearing path.
I understand. Steve, would you like to take the lead on this? Yes, that
A
is.
month ago, we were having, because Chuck's on I think you are too, on our comp plan.
Right,
And we had a discussion, does it match the comp plan?
right.
And if it didn't, it wouldn't make any sense to go any further with that if it didn't match. And that was the discussion we had. And then 2 weeks ago, correct, what's her, I'm sorry, the lady.
Jean Gibson.
Gibson came and took that as we were against a cell tower ordinance. Not against a cell tower ordinance. I don't believe that it needs to be, I'm just speaking for myself now, I'm
Right.
sorry. But I just personally don't think that it needs to be this big book. I mean, we've got an ordinance in place for everywhere but residential district. Why reinvent the wheel? But that's just me personally speaking. Without seeing what you've worked on, Alan, I can't comment on it. It's like I told her, without seeing it, I don't know.
So the floor is yours.
So, regarding being in sync with the comp plan, we actually, we wrote up a paragraph of kind of what we thought the objectives for the town relating to the telecom ordinance should be. It's basically, we want to promote and expand, latest technology cell coverage in the town because it's important to economic development and everything else. So that was the first objective. Second objective, try and encourage, co-location and, technology other than huge macro towers if possible. And then put some provisions in for things like fall zones and screening,
Setbacks.
buffering and setbacks to protect the impact on abutting property owners. So, kind of those are the three objectives that we had, in that order of priority. So we gave that to the comprehensive plan committee. They've modified the wording slightly, but those objectives are going to be in the comp plan to really provide the authority for the town to put in place an ordinance. So in terms of being in sync with the comp plan, That's not an issue.
What I had told them, Alan, is that your folks had been coming to our comp plan meetings, and basically we've been working hand in hand on a number of different items, getting feedback from one another, and that I didn't think that your folks would waste your time coming up with an ordinance that you would have to change again probably in 6 months.
Yeah. And so and in terms of the fact that, if the comprehensive plan, when the comprehensive plan gets approved in November, we're gonna go and major rewrite to the ordinance. And so the way we're structuring this, the telecom ordinance, it would be a separate ordinance from the major land use ordinance. So we'd have to make some minor tweaks to that because the names of the districts and things like that are gonna change. But it wouldn't require a wholesale revision of that or wholesale rewrite of that 2 years.
So can I ask, one thing that I think it was 2 weeks ago that I had mentioned about like the way when we had the Verizon tower years ago up on the River Road. Our ordinance covered it, but barely. But they were I had always heard that they were very good to work with, and I think you was on that board at the time.
I was on the
Chuck.
planning board at the time.
And I talked to Estelle, and she raved about how good they were to work with. Wouldn't it make sense, and this is strictly a layman speaking, because I don't know nothing to speak of about the ordinance, to put vague language in there, but to kick it like a, what did you call it, a special?
Conditional?
Conditional, whereas you guys could put anything you wanted to within reason on that for restrictions to fit the character of where they're applying. Because like the one down on Ocean Point, for instance, if that said that it would have been conditional approval, it would have went through the proper process. You guys know a lot more about that stuff than we do, and you could have put whatever conditions you felt needed to be on there. Doesn't that make more sense?
Yeah, we want to, the way we're structuring things right now, for example, setbacks. You're establishing a standard for setbacks that's, most telecom ordinances that you find, it's usually 100% or 125% of the height of the tower. But we would also give the planning board the discretion to reduce that if they provide screening and, engineering evidence that the thing's gonna collapse in place, not fall down. So it would give the flexibility to, relax some of those standards if the situation warrants. And it also has a pre-application meeting process where you can kind of walk through that stuff and decide, okay, where is this gonna be? What are the concerns gonna be in terms of visual impact that we're gonna have to address, so that you can sort of tailor the application and review process for the conditions on for that particular application.
One more question. I don't mean to hog. There was mention, and I think it was Jean mentioned it, but I don't want to put words in her mouth, about a height, right now there's no height restriction, and in this telecom ordinance there will be. Well, that's all fine and good, but one thing that we learned very quickly from the last episode was, if they can prove need, you can have all the restrictions you want, but they're gonna, so if you had, say, a 140-foot tower ordinance, and you cannot exceed 140 feet, and if a cell company comes in there and says, well, we've done all of our testing, and we can't get what we need unless it's 160 feet, well, guess, they win, because of the federal
FCC.
law, the way it is. So, is there a height restriction in that ordinance?
There would be height restrictions. Is it 125?
What you find, Steve, is
150.
once it gets, is it 200 or 250 feet?
200,
That they have to be lit.
200.
Right.
So right now, both.
You find a lot of
Want
190s.
to make sure that they're not going to be lit up.
Right.
Right.
And one of the things we were talking about, correct me, I don't remember if it's in there or not, was some law ordinances allow, if you can reduce the number of towers, because if you're trying to limit the height, it means you need more.
You need more
drive
of them,
coverage.
or you can go higher and get
Yeah,
fewer.
So, one option is give the planning board discretion to, if they can demonstrate that they can reduce the number of towers they need to have in town, let them have something a little bit higher.
Okay, so there is, as long as there's not a, okay,
Responsibility.
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So technically, it's not a
Those would
height.
be conditions, so say it's gonna be 175 feet with these conditions.
Makes sense.
You satisfied?
When will
He
you,
seems to be the one that keeps on bringing up the concerns. Not that I don't think any of us are less concerned about it, it just seems to be.
when do you suppose you'll have something drafted?
We're pretty close right now. We still have to work on the finalizing the visual assessment stuff. We're working on that tomorrow night. We have to make some, the FCC issued some new rules last September regarding co-location and minor changes and how you, basically, for that kind of stuff, the town doesn't have much leeway. They have to approve it within a certain amount of time. So we need to bake that stuff into the ordinance that we're working on. So, you know, by mid to middle of next month, I would expect we'd be ready to have something for public hearing. Because we want to get it on the ordinance
In November,
Right.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I change the subject while we have him here?
I think that's more up to Alan.
Well,
than
we,
me.
This is
well, we
public
talked,
comments.
well, we had talked about, a month or so ago about, bringing Mark on to help with the ordinance changes, once we get the comp plan done. Your thoughts?
I think that's a fantastic idea. I was a little cold on Mark when I first got involved, but I think that was more because of the politics of the situation that we were under at that point in time. But after working with him twice a month for the last 6 months, I've got a lot of respect for him. He knows his stuff, and he knows, you know, the people in the town, so I think he'd be great.
I told these guys I'm probably the cheapest one amongst the 5 of us, or maybe Douglas. But, and I hate spending large amounts of money on any consultants, but he's been well worth the money, just with the knowledge.
Sorry, I think that gets your
Yeah.
answer.
Yep.
Right.
Any more public comment?
Have we received a check yet from Mr. Chaosis?
We have not. No,
You beat me to the question.
Sorry.
Have we received any correspondence?
we have not.
Well, he was given 30 days, so next meeting.
Well, I've seen many quotes in the Boothbay Register and the Penn Bay Pilot and the Bangor Daily News.
Okay,
Well, I did have a question about, I did talk to Mr. Chaosis. He says that he paid for the town's email account on his personal credit card account. Can someone explain the situation to me?
to the,
Apparently that was what had been going on. When I found that out, I went to our IT guys and I had that changed over, so it's,
I
the
would,
town receives those
I
receipts.
would say if he wants to produce a bill to us, absolutely, we'll pay
Invoices,
him.
rather.
When did it get changed over?
Just recently, just recently.
When did the town get the new email system?
I don't know if I can answer that.
Over a year
I
ago.
think that was,
Quite a-
yeah, I
quite a
think that
long
was in
time
the
ago.
summer of last year.
Yeah.
Right.
I can tell you that I don't think anybody on this board knew that he was flipping a bill for the town of Boothbay. If we would have, we would have certainly had that remedied sooner than later.
Wouldn't you request payment each month for that or something?
You would think he would have looked for reimbursement, but he did
If
not.
he wants to give us a bill,
We'll happily pay
you
him.
produce a bill and we'll produce a check.
It is really that easy.
So it's not a known fact that he did that?
Oh, no, no, that, we didn't know about it any more than you did until just recently when he told us that he's been paying this bill.
Yeah.
Do you have any reason to doubt that he's done that?
I don't have any
Someone's paying for it, right?
I don't have any reason to doubt, and I also have no reason to know, because until we see a bill, we don't know who's paying for it.
Well, you were in touch with the IT guys, right? So he was paying it.
The bill was getting paid at some point, we still had
My discussion was just to have the billing sent to us. That, I just wanted to make sure that that was remedied.
Yeah, you just fixed it.
Dan, could you find out who's paying the bill?
I'll look into it, yep. Yeah, I mean, I'll look into it, but if it's a private account, I may not have access
Right,
to
I
it.
mean-
Obviously, we haven't been. and we have an email account, so that would lead me to believe that it had to be him, someone.
But again, I mean, there's no way for us to know or confirm or anything else. Show me a bill.
Thank you.
But I'll look into that, Bill. Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
You all set?
I am, thanks.
All right, one last time. Any more public comment? Apparently there is not. We'll move on to, entertain a motion to review the warrants and sign them.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? And I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Adjourn, yes, so moved. All those in favor? So moved.
Do you have anybody?
It's about time the chairman did that.
Sorry.
Just one second.
I never liked that